Hey everyone, I am back, and in today's video we're going to do another Bookie Babe book review video for my that series of the channel, and I am very excited to do this one. But before we get into it, as always, I want to thank you all for being here. Make sure you hit that red button and subscribe, and like this video if you want more books like this, and also make sure you go back and watch some of my more recent book reviews, like those ones, comment what you want me to read next. This book marks number 5 on my 2023 reading journey that I'm able to review. Also, I wanted to make sure to tell you all that I am on the Goodreads app, so you can follow me at Caitlin M, your _ geeky girlfriend, which is the GF, same as the YouTube channel. But make sure you go over there and you can find my recommendations and my full reviews over there. So yeah, and today's book was one that has been on my shelf for a very long time, and it's like one of those classic books that everybody needs to read, right? And we're talking about The Giver by Lois Lowry. And when I thought of Lois Lowry, I literally thought of the poetry book. So when I found out that she wrote actual novels, I was a little bit like, because I thought that she was just a poetry writer, or he. I honestly don't know if Lois Lowry is a male or a female, so that is a bit of research that I need to do. So we're just gonna say Lois Lowry. And I had this book on my list for a very, very long time. And when I told people that I was reading it, other people were like, "Oh, I don't like that book," or "Yeah, I haven't read that book." So it's not as popular as I thought, but it's on a lot of those top 10, top 100 books you have to read in your life. And there is a snippet in the very beginning written by the author. It is an introduction, and it was very helpful, but also gave me kind of some reservations about what to expect, because there were mixed reviews even in that little introduction. And so that was interesting. But I think it kind of helped me get a better idea of what to expect. I had no idea what this book was about when I picked it up and said I was going to start reading it. My husband said that he read it in middle school and did not like it, but he's very particular about the books that he reads and the books that he likes. He's not much of a fiction novel person, so I kind of took that with a grain of salt, but some of his comments were a little bit interesting, so I was interested but also a little bit skeptical. And I will say, the first few chapters, I wasn't totally convinced. It kind of has a slower start. I mean, the chapters are short. It's only got a little over 200 pages all in all, so it's a short book, but there's a lot in there, and there's a lot in each chapter. And it gave me a little bit of a Hunger Games vibe. And I will say I have not read the Hunger Games books. I've only seen the movies, but a similar sort of society set up in a way that, there are different communities, and in the community, everybody kind of has very specific things to wear and things to eat, and everything's done at very structured times. It's very, very regimented, and I talk more about that in my Goodreads review, but this book could have some political undertones depending on how you read it and how kind of into politics you are. But I did see some kind of glaring, obvious comparisons to some government structures and some government regulations that we have in our world. And so as an adult reading it, I was able to kind of make those connections. Now, as a middle schooler, or maybe even a young high schooler who doesn't really have, you just maybe know your own culture and your own country and your own morals and values and faith and you can think about all different kinds of backgrounds where people get their belief systems. You might not think of other countries when reading it, or you might not think of those other government structures, but as an adult reading it, I definitely saw some similarities. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I don't like to spoil on these video reviews. These are supposed to be just more like, should you read the book or not? And I do think that is a good book overall. I was very pleasantly surprised with the book. Despite its kind of slow start, I really was into it from the second half on, especially the last few chapters. And the whole, like, I had no idea who the Giver was or what the Giver was or why it was called the Giver. And you find out why it's called the Giver about 8 to 10-ish chapters in, maybe like around chapter 11 or 12 or so. So right about that halfway mark, you figure out why it's, like a little bit before that, you find out why it's called the Giver, and it was like, okay, that's where we're at. And if you are very perceptive, then you might figure that out like right away. But for me, it took a little bit longer. The whole dynamic of how the book is set up and the characters and the character development, it kind of took me step by step, and I just enjoyed it step by step. Like I said, it had a slower start for me, but I was really invested in the second half. And the way that the story is told is interesting. It's told through the perspective of Jonas, who's the main character, but it's not told from his point of view. It's told from more of this omniscient, all-knowing narrator, which if I was a high school English teacher, I would be able to tell you exactly what point of view that is. I think it's first person when the narrator is, first person is when I'm telling the story. I think it's third person where you know everything. Third person, then there's different ones, but that's a whole, I'm not a high school English teacher, and it's probably good because obviously I don't know these things. So anyway, it's told from that perspective, so it's like an all-knowing narrator, which kind of is the vibe of the whole book anyway. And essentially, they're part of a community, and each age level, they have different tasks. So at age number 3, they get a jacket with buttons in the back. At age 9, they get a bicycle, and that's their mode of transportation. So this community is very low technology. They have there was a TV mentioned at one point. There were some phones and some speakers mentioned at one point. So I'm not 100% sure when the book is supposed to take place, but I think more of it is just the setting of like, this is a community, and you're kind of, I don't think the time period necessarily matters. It's just, you have to get the sense that everybody in the community does the exact same thing. Every single year, these groups of kids get this, and every family gets this, and this is how they bring up their children, and this is what happens to you when you get old. And there are some very intense surprises throughout the book that I was not expecting. And the book like goes in one direction, and then at the last minute kind of takes a sharp turn. And I really like that. It might, if you've read the book, it might say something about me that I really enjoyed that, but I think it gives it a realness. And I think it, for a kid or a middle schooler primarily, this would be a very difficult book to read. One of the concepts in the book that's explored heavily is that adults can lie, and adults are instructed to lie. And I think that's a very, very intense concept for young readers to grapple with, and that might be something that's very hard for a child or a middle schooler to kind of understand, and the why adults lie. And in this scenario, in the scenario of the book, like I said, they're instructed to do so. That's just their job. That's their role in the community. And Jonas kind of has to find that out the hard way, and he has to figure out what to do about it and how things can be done. And I think there's a underlying theme of like change and how to be an activist or how to be an advocate for something and an advocate for change. And even somebody as young as 12 can be that advocate for change and can make change happen. However, they lead this up, and you're climbing up this mountain, and then at the precipice of this advocacy for change, the book kind of ends. So I want to read more. According to the back of the book, there are actually 4 novels in the Giver Quartet, and I have it on I'm going to add the second one onto my list now. I want to see if this story continues. I want to know if there is more information. I want to know what happens at the end, because they go through this kind of grueling end, and then it just ends. And yes, it's a happy, peaceful ending, but it's not necessarily like a sufficient ending for the book that we have just read. So all that being said, I'm going to give this book like an 8 out of 10, maybe like a 7.5, just because it did have a slower start. It kind of has mixed reviews, so it's not something that's highly, highly revered. Now, granted, it did win, and it's won tons of awards, and it is on those lists of top 100 books, best books that, books everybody needs to read in their lifetime. But with that, it's met with a lot of criticism and people who are like, yes, I read it, but I think it's very hard to read, or I didn't like the themes, or I So, I do think that it is a must read. I think it's very interesting concepts. It is a differing perspective of a totally different society that is not reliant on technology. And I think that's interesting, especially in our society today. I think that makes it even more interesting. And to think when the book was written and the society that they lived in, it was a lot less technology. So the idea of having a TV in a room was not uncommon. The idea of having microphones, etc., like some technology was available, but not like it is right now in 2023. So all that to be said, I think it's a slow start. However, I think that there are some very realistic ideals pushed in the novel. I think Jonas himself has very strong morals that I think are great for like young readers and young people of our society to have. And like I said, those differing perspectives and to kind of think about some of those big questions. It's an interesting idea to think about, like what happens to us when we die or when we're born, and how that, like, it's just some interesting stuff. Whether you like believe it or not, based on your faith, your background, whatever, it's just a book that gives you a different perspective. Overall, it is just a novel, and yes, there are some political undertones in there, but I would not say that it's like a political journal or a political book or anything like that. I think that it is a good read. It exceeded my expectations. It was way different than I was expecting. And if you like The Hunger Games, this would be a book that you would most likely enjoy. Maybe like in some parts not as dark, but definitely in other parts maybe just as like dark and intense. So do with that what you will, readers. But I say The Giver is a must read. For me, I would say that it is a book that everybody, should be on those top 100 books to read. It should be a book that is read in schools, especially middle schools, freshman English class, some stuff like that, because it is very easy to get through. It would be very easy to assign, very easy, like writing assignments in there. Like, I definitely, whether you agree, like it would be a great opinion writing piece just if you agree or disagree. There you go. So there is a lot to this book, and it definitely exceeded my expectations. And according to the cover, it's going to be a movie soon, or maybe it already is a movie. I need to look that up because I'm going to add it to my list. And I think that's why I chose to read it, was because I had it in my like TV movie book pile. Yes, I have one of those. But yeah, so like I said, take that how you will, with what you will. If you've read it, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If not, is this book on your list? Do you think this book should be on your list? If you want more information, you can follow me on Goodreads or go check out my full review there of more information. I try not to put too many spoilers in there because I think that you can just take the opinion of like, should you read it or not, and make a decision for yourself. I don't want to give away the whole book because then nobody would have to read it. And I feel like books are such a valuable resource that everybody should pick up books and read them. So that's why I try not to do too many spoilers. I give like little bits and pieces to kind of let you know if it's going to be something that you like or not, or based on your genre preference, based on the books you like to read, type of books that you might be interested in. So don't think that this, it's a political book, so I'm not going to read it. Like, maybe it would help open your mind. I did not know that when I went into it. So that's why I try and share information that'll just help you make a decision as a reader. But I think that books are so valuable, everybody needs to pick them up for themselves. And me telling you, like, you shouldn't read this because da-da-da-da-da, or you should read this because da-da-da-da-da. I'm just going to say, here's what I think of it. Pick it up for yourself if you want to see it. So I give it like a solid 7.5 or an 8. Like I said, great, great, great for middle school and early high school readers. And obviously as an adult, I enjoyed it as well. So that's my review of The Giver by Lois Lowry, and I apologize for not knowing if Lois Lowry is a male or a female. I'm going to look that information up. because that's just a piece of information that I need to know for my next video. When I read the sequels, I can know one way or the other. But thank you all so much for watching. I promise movie reviews are coming to the channel very soon. This weekend and Friday kind of got away from me. I was hoping to do more, but y'all are very patient, and thank you. And make sure you sign up for the notifications here on my channel and hit that red button so that way you can come back next time and go check out all of my other movie and book reviews from 2023. Like I said, this is book number 5. My goal is 15 books for the year, and I started the next one today, so hopefully we will make it to that goal. So keep dropping those in the comments what you want me to read. Thank you all so much for your recommendations already. And I say this in every video, if you are an author looking for a beta reader, I would absolutely love to be your beta reader. I have done 3 so far, and I'm always looking for new books. So you can comment here, you can follow me on Instagram, send me a DM. I would love, love, love to be a beta reader, and I'm always looking for new authors to support. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.